Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to EFA32 on this Wednesday, April 29th. It must be written. It must be written, right? And I'm going to go there because when you're driving down a highway, whether in Canada or Europe or United States, there's a posted sign, right? 60 kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, 50 miles per hour, 120 miles per hour. There's a posted sign, right? It tells you what you got to do. And the reason why they do that it must be written, is because so people adhere to it, correct? When you go onto a highway, it doesn't say, you're entering an area that we want you to take every reasonable precautions for the health and safety of others. Please drive within this range. They don't do that, correct? So, and the reason why they don't do that is so that people can adhere to something properly for the health and safety of others. Correct. Right? So when I'm looking at these, yesterday I'm watching the news and reading some good articles, and this lady in Aurora got a $880 ticket, $880 ticket, and it's probably surcharges because I'm hearing of these $1,500 tickets or $1,200 tickets, the surcharges, etc. But with this lady here, I guess the park she was in, she was allowed to go to the park is closed, city park is closed, but you're allowed to go through the park if you stay on the path and you keep going, can't stop. Right? That's, I guess, some of the rules of that park. And I guess she stopped because she's walking her pet. There was nobody there. She's isolated, but her pet went off the beaten path. She ended up picking up her cell phone, and then took too much time because it was being monitored. And the bylaw officer that was monitoring her came up to her, and the conversation led to an $880 ticket for getting off the beaten path, going on the grass and that. And those that have pets and dogs know that those 2, 3, 4, 5 times around the block while they're smelling the roses and even the grass blades, and they don't want to go to the bathroom, but they have to go to the bathroom because you don't want them to go to the bathroom inside the house, and you trained them to go to the bathroom outside, but they're taking their sweet time. So we all know that. So that poor lady, that dog probably went off the beaten path because they want to go over there and they want to take their time, right? But she gets an $880 ticket for that. Ta-da! Welcome to Canada. When I look at that, and a lot of these things, and yesterday I talked about put it in writing, give us the list, right? It must be written. This is where when it doesn't make sense, right? This lady, this picture I'm talking about, this news footage that was on this woman in Aurora, here, Ontario. In the picture, there was a couple of bylaw officers going down this grassy knoll towards a park. In the park, you can see people jogging, you can see people walking their dogs or whatever, but completely isolated from each other. But you can see them in this big park, and you see these bylaw officers going up with their yellow jackets and tools in hand to issue summons and tickets and etc. Right? And I'm looking at that, and I'm going like, wow. Right, like the stormtroopers are going in. It's like they're dun dun dun. They're not after like real crime or after real like, offenses and that. A gray offense. Nothing is black and white. Nothing is written specifically. It's a gray offense. We're gonna gray you right now with an offense of $800. And first of all, when did $880, $1,200, $1,500, like, bam? When did those tickets become the norm? Like, when did that become the norm? $1,200 tickets, $1,500 tickets. I can just imagine around the world. Oh, my dad got a $10,000 ticket for looking at across the street. Like, and this whole gray area. And people are getting tickets from a gray area. It's not black and white. It's not written. It's in this, like the example they give about driving. You're going onto a highway. It specifically says this. It doesn't say you may do this or you may do that within these range. No, it doesn't say that. You know, a long time ago, I had a bottle here, a plastic bottle a moment ago, and I'm looking at that. Like, at one time, somebody thought that was a good idea, right? Putting water in a bottle. And somebody thought it was a stupid idea, and then that person thought it was a good idea, ended up being a multi-gazillion-dollar industry, right? Water in a bottle. You know, at one time I'm going to sell bottles. It was crazy, right? And it's a multi-gazillion-dollar idea. That said, that same idea, then over the years, we had the issue of don't leave your bottles in the vehicle, and that's why they have expiry dates on bottles, on plastic bottles. The reason why it's not the water that's expiring inside, it's the plastic, right? The contents, the leaches, and that kind of stuff. There's a whole bunch of information out there on that. I don't want to speak out of knowledge because I don't have that kind of knowledge, but that's the reason why they put expiry dates on that. So because I came out and all the leaching and all that stuff and blah, 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 so don't leave your bottles in the vehicle. And then they changed the type of plastics that they made and over the years. And then the pollution, the rivers and the oceans, plastic bottles everywhere, like everywhere. And now, so that great idea made a lot of money, that kind of stuff. But then it fragmented. It fragmented with the pollution and the leaching and that. And then people got brighter and smarter and just went back to the old ways of doing things, which was take a bottle that you can wash at home so the water looks funky, but it's got my apple cider vinegar, my salt, my creatine, and my daily water regimen. But people went back to the old school ways of just take a bottle that you have at home and wash it and fill it. And I have 3 of them right there. So my point is just take something recyclable, and they sell these things like a nada, and it doesn't cost you much, and they are good plastic. They don't leach. So my point to all that is a lot of great ideas are not that great, right? So what if they come out with the face coverings, right? Around the world right now, there's places around the world where they made it illegal to cover your face. So what are they going to do now? Scratch that one. Now you got to cover your face. Is that what they're going to do? Scratch that one. Amendment numbers. Like now we don't want you. So are they going to come out with tickets for covering your face? If you don't cover your face, well, on the trend of the 880 to 1200. $1,500 ticket for not covering your face. Is that what they're going to do next? Because revenue generation. And I've talked about this before. Revenue generation. You know, when you hear about a city went bankrupt, well, the city doesn't go bankrupt. What happens is that they squeeze businesses and the resources that come in, they squeeze that to a certain max. Because after a certain max, if you squeeze too much, everything starts failing. Everything starts collapsing, right? Your bankruptcies and your closures and that kind of stuff. And then the funds that funds this big governments, right? I believe in government, wholeheartedly believe in government. I've talked about that. Check on a system. Completely believe on measure procedures and laws and that kind of stuff. But I don't believe in big government. I do not believe in big government, and we are proving it what's going on right now. Because what happens is that they can only maximize the tax base before that starts crumbling. So then all these businesses, they start like they can't. There's no all these hands in their pocket. They can't make things last or grow or expand or pension, that kind of stuff. So they start crumbling and falling apart and that kind of stuff. And then all these cities go bankrupt. Well, that's what happens, right? It goes bankrupt because they can't squeeze no more. So then the system fails and everything starts crumbling. So then we're now in a system of revenue generation. I don't know if you've noticed that, but in the last 10, 20 years, all these new measures and procedures in place with fees and fees and fees. Now you get these packages. You visit one city, and then 2 weeks later, a week later, you get this 14-page package that you went through a construction zone in one city at 2 in the morning when there's nobody there, but you get this $700 ticket, right? People are experiencing those kind of things, right? Or the red light cameras, or there's a lot of things out there that are good, and there's a lot of things out there that go, is that a speed trap or not? Well, they're starting to become electronic. We're starting to get a lot more of that. That's revenue generation. Right. Number one priority of a lot of enforcement I talked about is revenue generation. Why? Well, they got right now, just my city, my city, the particular cities, they're losing $1 million a day. $1 million a day they're losing, right? Why is that? Well, they're not giving as many tickets because there's not as many cars out there now. They're not giving as many infraction notices and all that kind of stuff and fines and everything because a lot of the projects and everything you can't build. There's no money being made and the permits coming in, that kind of stuff. And then you can't give notices to companies that are fines or whatever that are closed and not operational. The speeding, there's not as much cars on the road, so there's not as much speeding. You can see it, right? All this revenue is falling. Right? It's falling. So what's happening, they got to make something up. So they go after the dog tickets. They go after the standing on the grass too long tickets. They go after because we're not going to call it quotas. We're not going to call it quotas because some agencies have quotas, but we're not going to call it quotas, but we're going to call it comparisons, like comparisons, because people do compare. Cities within cities, province within province, countries within countries, departments within departments, agencies within agencies, they compare. Oh, they're giving that many tickets. Hey, their revenue based off those tickets, they got this much, right? That's what you're seeing, right? So now the face covering one, was that going to come in? Right, eventually drones, just following you, falling apart, beep, 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 like a little beeping drone. Think about that. That's revenue generation. That comes from big government. That comes from all that stuff, right? And then so I'm asking you, the government out there, please put it in writing. Make it black and white. Just make it in black and white. In my household, I have this thing written up. You see these signs behind me that I like that kind of stuff. And even my daughters, I'll do a whole thing on that with my wife and daughters. I have basically, you'll see what I mean. The governance, the laws of the household, of our organic, our life, our spirits, and everything, right? And then we all signed it. I had them sign it when they were young. My wife had them sign that, and a commitment to themselves and to each other in life, right? But it is written. It is written. So if you're going to ticket people that are standing on the grass with their dog that are peeing, holding their cell phone, they've been there 30 seconds too long. That's why they came out of the vehicle to engage the conversation, which ended up in a ticket. If you're going to have those kind of tickets, or the kind of tickets that somebody's walking through a public spot and somebody walked by them and they all get tickets, right, by accident, but they still get tickets. They're still getting those big tickets, and especially people, the general population, right? Here I'm talking to you, the general population. Now, because they can't squeeze this group no more, they can't squeeze that group no more. That's when the revenue generation hits everyone across the board. Everyone pays. Everyone pays. Whether you're working, not working, whether you're a gadillionaire, not gadillionaire, those kind of fees, those you're walking by the wind too fast or you're standing by that dog too long, kind of tickets affects everyone equally. So equality for all, right? Equality for all. So if that's the type of system you want, let's keep with big government. Let's keep with massive systems and massive overhead. And let's keep squeezing until they can't squeeze no more, until that crumbles. And then that system crumbles, which I talked about that in previous episodes, right? It must be written. Right. So unless you want to be living in that kind of life with drones, or as we evolve, right? We always evolve in the 5Gs and that kind of stuff. Unless you want to have more control on gray area, ask your government to put it in writing. Go back to your department. Call if you're dealing with this government agency, call them. Ask it for them in writing. Ask. Make a phone call. Send an email. Put it in writing. Ask them for that in writing. You want it in black and white. Whether it's this part, if you're closing this part, I need it in black and white. Previous to COVID-19, I talked about this before. Previous to COVID-19, last summer, I had a bylaw officer show up at our door on a Sunday morning at 9 a.m. to enforce a bylaw that wasn't a bylaw. And I don't want to get into that, but think about that. They came to our house at 9 a.m. in the morning, ding dong, to enforce a bylaw on a complaint that wasn't even a bylaw. And in fact, the actual bylaw that he was enforcing that wasn't a bylaw, when we went on their system, their bylaw, it is written black and white, right? When we went to that, it actually completely contradicted the actual bylaw, which we pursued to call the supervisor to ask them to educate the person that did the complaining on the bylaw that actually she was wrong on, and to educate their bylaw officer that came to our house to enforce a bylaw that wasn't a bylaw, and to actually tell them this is what the bylaw. Because I come from that background also, right? When you showed up at a job site or you showed up at an enforcement, whatever, you read the bylaw before you you enforce the bylaw. You want to make sure what you're going into, especially when you need an advance notice. You're getting a call on something, a complaint on something, and you're showing up on something, and you want to enforce what you're showing up on, right? So that said, what I'm getting at with that, it must be written. It must be black and white. And so write your governments, write your departments, ask them, what does it say there in black and white? I need it in black and white. If I want to operate properly, if I want to walk through life properly, if I want to engage in community properly, if I want to engage in just under your rules and regulation without being subjected to a $1,200 fine. I don't want to be afraid. Like, do you want our children to be afraid of bylaws now? Bylaw under the grass, like literally under the roots, right? Is that what you want? Everybody's afraid of everybody and afraid of bylaw because it's so gray that you don't know if you're going to get a ticket for breathing. Imagine that, $1,200 for breathing. There'll probably be a fee or a tax coming near you for that. But Jean-Guy Bourguignon, EFA 32. Thank you. Wishing each and every one of you a ticket-free week. Thank you.